You think you know the story of pregnancy, right? Well, today, we're going to look at it in a totally different way. This isn't just biology class stuff. This is the most intense survival story ever told, a journey of conflict, diplomacy, and incredible sacrifice.
Our source material really doesn't pull any punches. It calls pregnancy a hardcore sci-fi epic. And you know what? That's the perfect description. We're talking about a process that is as metal as it is miraculous, where a new life literally fights for its existence against, just incredible odds.
And here's the thing that really gets me. This epic story, it's not about some random organism in a petri dish. It's your story. It's my story. It's the brutal, beautiful, and let's be real, statistically impossible journey every single one of us had to take just to be here.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. And our story kicks off with what you can only describe as an impossible mission. Imagine an army setting out on a journey, but the entire world, the terrain itself, is designed to destroy them. The odds? They're not just bad. They are, for all practical purposes, zero.
And the sheer scale of this thing is just staggering. We're talking about an army of tens of millions of sperm cells, a massive force, all with one single objective. But this huge number, it's absolutely necessary because the gauntlet that's coming next is designed for almost total failure. You see, the female reproductive tract is basically a fortress. First up, an acidic gauntlet that kills millions of the weaker sperm almost right away. Within minutes. The ones that survive that, they have to navigate this treacherous maze of protein nets, getting trapped and lost. And any poor souls who make it through that, well, now they have to deal with the mother's own immune cells, which are on patrol, hunting down and just devouring any stragglers they find. It is an absolutely brutal obstacle course.
So, what's the result of this gauntlet? Almost total annihilation. Seriously, look at this. The survival rate basically rounds down to zero. Out of the millions and millions that started, less than 1/1000th of 1% even gets a glimpse of the final stage. The attrition is just mind-blowing, and it just goes to show how incredibly selective this whole process is.
So from tens of millions, we're now down to what? Maybe a few dozen survivors? A handful. And what do they find at the end of this insane journey? Their target, the egg. And it's a monster. It's like 10,000 times their size. But here's the twist. It's not a conquest. They don't just break in. In the end, it's the egg that makes the final choice. It chooses one single sperm to let inside.
So, the great race is over. One survivor has made it. But the fight for survival? Oh, it's just getting started. It's shifting to a totally new kind of battlefield. It's no longer about speed. Now it's a tense diplomatic negotiation. A brand new being exists, and it has its own agenda. And its first task is to convince its host to let it stick around.
So to do this, the tiny embryo immediately splits into two teams. One team of cells, well, that's what's going to eventually become the baby. But the other team? It becomes what our source calls a guardian angel clone. These cells, the trophoblasts, they never had a chance to become a person. Their one and only purpose, their entire existence, was just to make you exist.
Which raises a huge question, right? How does this even work? Think about it. The embryo is technically a foreign invader. It's got different DNA. The mother's body is designed to find and destroy anything that isn't self. So how does this tiny little cluster of cells convince a super powerful immune system to not only stand down, but to actually help it?
Well, it all comes down to this really intense chemical dialogue, a back-and-forth conversation. The embryo starts sending out dozens of chemical signals, basically saying, hey, I'm here, let me attach. The uterus then responds with its own set of signals, checking out the embryo, assessing its quality. And if the uterus doesn't like the answers it's getting, the embryo gets rejected. End of story.
But the embryo isn't just asking nicely. This is life or death, remember? So it gets aggressive. It deploys what are basically infiltration units. These little bubbles of genetic material that act kind of like a human virus. They actually invade the cells of the uterus and try to brainwash them into helping it attach. It is an incredibly sneaky, aggressive act of pure survival.
Okay, so implantation is a success. The embryo is in. Now comes the next monumental task, building an entire life support system from scratch. This is the story of the placenta, a temporary organ, a fortress, and an absolute lifeline.
Just stop and think about this for a second. You, when you were just a tiny ball of cells, grew a completely new organ inside your mother. An organ that fed you, protected you, and then, after you were born, was just discarded and died a silent death while everyone was busy looking at you.
It's such a wild and kind of poignant part of your own origin story.
And the placenta? It's a masterpiece of biological engineering. It does two huge jobs at once. It's a protector, a fortress with its own immune system, shielding the fragile fetus from microbes and infections. And at the exact same time, it's a provider. It literally taps into the mother's blood supply to funnel a constant stream of glucose and nutrients right to the growing baby.
But this direct connection, it creates a really deep fundamental conflict. You see, the father's genes inside the fetus, they want that baby to survive at all costs. They're demanding the maximum amount of resources possible from the mother. But the mother's genes, they have to balance supporting this new life with, her own survival. And this creates a constant, invisible genetic tug-of-war that lasts for the entire 9 months.
And the demands are just wow. Over the next few months, that fetus is going to increase its weight by over 1 billion times. Can you even wrap your head around that number? The amount of energy needed for that kind of growth is just immense, and it puts an incredible strain on the mother's body. It's this fragile piece, a constant negotiation between two beings, both just trying to get out of this alive.
So, from a desperate race against impossible odds, to a chemical negotiation for your own life, to literally building an entire organ from scratch, this is the story of how you began. It's brutal, it's unforgiving, but it's also unbelievably beautiful, isn't it?
I think the single most important thing to take away from all this is simple. Your existence is not an accident. You fought to be here. You outcompeted millions of others. You argued your case with chemical words, and you successfully navigated the single most dangerous journey there is. You are, by definition, a survivor.
But that's only half the story, isn't it? You didn't just win a fight. You were also chosen. Chosen by the egg that decided to let you in, and chosen by your mother's body that recognized your potential, that lowered its defenses, protected you, and gifted you an incredible amount of its own energy so you could grow.
And in the end, that's the paradox at the very heart of our existence, right? As our source material puts it, our biology is a brutal, unforgiving, but necessary part of the greatest wonder there is, the creation of new life, the creation of you.
So we'll leave you with this one thought. Every single person listening to this right now is the victor of an epic, near-impossible struggle for survival. You won the right to exist before you even took your first breath. So the only question left is, what are you going to do with the life you fought so hard for?